Hey friends, what's up? How are you? This is the second time I've sat down to film this video. I started filming and our neighbor down the street is expecting, and evidently today must have been her baby shower, because all of a sudden our dog Macy, started going ballistic and barking like crazy, and there was all these cars on our street and all these horns and all these people yelling out their window. And it was so loud, even though I'm in the back of our house, like facing the back, and this was going on in the front of the house. It was crazy. These are the things happening in our world today, and it was really sweet, but I had to stop filming, and then I turned my camera back on and my battery was dead. So here we go, round two. Today's video is on the book Melted Hearts by Annie Dyer. This is part of her Callaghan Green series. This is the third book I've read. This is the most recent. And I was so excited to hear she was going to write more in this series, because I love it. I will include in the description box below the other videos I have done. I did a video on mythical creatures and also on changing spaces. I also have another set of videos on her Tarnished Crown series. I like Annie's writing. Melted Hearts is about, okay, wait, let me start over. Melted Hearts is a enemies to lovers book. And interesting thing about this book is that Sophie Slater and Liam Rosehill, which are the two characters, neither one of them is a Callaghan or a Green, which is kind of funny. But Sophie is friends with all of them and very intertwined in all of them. And so if you are familiar with her series, you'll know where she fits into all of that. Sophie is a very successful businesswoman. She owns her own spas. They're rather exclusive. They have made her a bunch of money. She is in her mid-30s. She's been married a couple times, which I thought was interesting, the way Annie wrote that about her. And when the book starts, she is just like footloose and fancy-free, totally fine, but at a great stage in her life to be able to enjoy the fruits of her labor. Liam is around the same age, totally different ball game with him. He's actually a rock star, extremely successful rock star, but at a point in his life, he doesn't want to perform anymore. He's ready for the next stage in his life. When the book picks up, Sophie is on her way to Iceland with a bunch of her friends, the Callaghans and others, and they're going to be, they're going to be celebrating Victoria's hen party for us Americans, a bachelorette party. And Liam happens to be on his way to Iceland to literally the same place, because he wants to scope out a place for a studio where he can go and write and bring in other musicians to write with him and to write for people. Like I said, next stage of life. Sophie is going because she loves Iceland. She thinks it's beautiful. She's ready to expand outside of England, outside of London, for her business. And we do know that they have met previously once. I think it was 6 months before the book started, or was it a year? It doesn't matter. But they met once at a restaurant, and where Liam was announcing his retirement, and they didn't like each other. He's kind of, not that he's rough around the edges, but they just didn't mix well. They did have interaction. He was kind of a jerk to her, and she walked away. Because I'm relatively new to the series, it took me a second in this book to remember who was an actual Callaghan, who was a married-in. It's a big family, and I'm usually pretty good at the whole big family thing. My husband has an enormous family. His mom is one of 9. His dad had 1 brother, but he had 8 children. So I married into this enormous family, and I'm pretty good at keeping track of who belongs to who. So once I got my feet wet and the book got going, then I remembered, and it all came back to me. The really strong thing about this book and all of Annie's books in this series is the characters and how they love each other and how they support each other, the wider net of the Callaghan Greens. And I love that about these books. One of my favorite, and I think I'm definitely not alone when I say this, one of my favorite characters, of course, because he's a Callaghan, Seth, showed up in this book. He's a very good friend of Sophie's. I cannot wait. I am dying for Seth's book. I just love him. I eat him up. And I love that he was such a big part of this book. There's something else that Annie does in these books, which as fans we all love, and she always has their texting on a group text, the family is. Oh my God, it's hysterical. It's exactly how, if you have a family and you are in a group text, it is exactly how you imagine it to be. And that's exactly the way it is. Oh my God, it's hysterical. I highlighted that whole section where she had a group text going. It was so funny. Getting back to Liam and Sophie, it's interesting how I was trying to wrap my head around because I wasn't real sure, like, why didn't they like each other? And we get a flashback and we get their interaction from that night at the restaurant. So we know why, but I was still, I wanted a little more to find out why they didn't like each other, or did they just, because they have chemistry. I mean, it's undeniable. Why did they rub each other the wrong way? Or the right way, So this is something that Sophie said. He was the man I would have broken my self-imposed ban on, the man who had somehow affected my chemistry so that I couldn't think straight, and he'd thrown it back in my face. So like I said, he's Liam's kind of a jerk to her. Well, he is a jerk to her. But yet she is this confident woman and she can give it back to him. But she's decided she's attracted to him as soon as she meets him that night. But yet something's just not quite right. And then he was a jerk to her. And this is what Liam says about Sophie. Her hair was tied up in one of those messy bun things, and her skin looked clear. Noticing how pretty she was irritated me. She irritated me. So it's obvious that they have, good chemistry. That continues through this book. Oh my gosh. I loved how, and I've never been to Iceland, and to me that seems so exotic to go to Iceland. I realize that the Callaghan Green series and Annie is English. So for them, for you people over there, it's not so far away. For me, over here in the Midwest of the United States, that's like, I have a friend that visited there last year and it was like, wow, Iceland, so beautiful, so out of the norm for me to think about going on vacation. So I loved how Annie wrote them being in Iceland in this book. It was really interesting to me. Like I mentioned before, they are in Iceland for two different reasons, but they end up with their eye on the same property. That's where the base of this book is and what brings them together. They both want the property. They are told by the real estate agent that the woman who's selling the property only wants to sell to a married couple. Well, they don't even like each other. So I was like, okay, how are we gonna get there? But that's where Annie goes with their story. So there is a little bit of a fake marriage type thing going on here. And slowly but surely, they start turning towards one another as opposed to walking this side by side. It was a bit of a slow burn for me. I was actually kind of surprised in the moments that they did you could start to feel their attraction, that it was actually happening. And I have to say that's awesome, because I love when I can't see where the book is going. I love when I'm surprised by the book. Their story was just very different and I really liked that. They're both such strong, confident people. Stubborn, want to protect themselves and their heart, but they're also in their mid-30s. They have lived life. There's a little bit of ex drama on Liam's side. There's a little bit of trepidatious, like, Is he playing, you know, Sophie thinks, is he playing me? Liam thinks the same thing. They know what they both want, and they've figured out how to get there and how to mutually benefit from it. But then these feelings start getting involved, and I really liked that part. I liked watching their walls start to come down, and I liked watching them start to get to know each other, and the little bits that made them realize that it was starting to turn into something more. I always like to see where the title comes into the book. For this book, it was in song lyrics written by Liam, and I loved that. You know, his rock star, because of where he is at the point of his life, the rock star is just part of him. We were meeting Liam in this book. We weren't meeting Leif, which is who his rock star image is. And he would talk about it, but he was Liam in his spot. He was the sum of where he had been and where he got to in life. Especially liked the way Annie wrote some about him writing music again and how strongly he felt about all of that. And, you know, it was the artist in him, not necessarily the rock star. Something that inevitably comes up is children, because they're both at a point in their lives and they're not married. Like I said, Sophie's been married 3 times, twice to the same man. We don't get a lot about that. We just know that. But inevitably somebody says to her, how come you don't have kids? Do you even want kids? Sophie answers the question in a way that I thought was really interesting as a mom and as a wife and somebody that always wanted children. I have 3 children of my own. It was really a light bulb moment for me. The way she said it, I hadn't heard it this way before, and this is what she says. Being a mother takes sacrifice. You give up part of your identity to give someone else theirs. She said it absolutely perfectly. I never really thought about it that way. I would highly recommend Melted Hearts by Annie Dyer. I think it's a wonderful addition to the Callaghan Green series. Let me know if you have read any of the books in that series in the comment section below. I would love to hear your thoughts about the ones that you read. Which ones are your favorites? Which ones should I absolutely read? I already know that I have a little crush on Max, so I feel like I need to read his, and I can't remember what the name of his is right now. I'm excited to see who Annie is going to write about next. Don't forget to take a moment. I would so appreciate it if you would like this video and subscribe. It helps not only me and my channel, but it also helps Annie and this video get visibility on this YouTube platform. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.